Look down at your keyboard right now. Top row, left side. What does it say? Q, W, E, R, T, Y. Now ask yourself a simple question. Why isn't it A, B, C? That would be easier, right? Alphabetical order. Logical. Something you learned in kindergarten. So why does every single keyboard use a scrambled mess that slows you down? Here's the thing. The real reason is not what you think. It's not about efficiency. It's not about speed. And it's definitely not about helping you type faster. What if I told you that this weird layout exists because of a problem that disappeared over 100 years ago, and that we're still stuck with it today? Not because it's good, but because it won. Stick with me. This is a story about hidden design, accidental lock-in, and why better ideas don't always win. Welcome back to Everyday Secrets, the place where we uncover the hidden stories behind ordinary things you never think twice about. If you've ever wondered why your world works the way it works, you're in the right place. Do you subscribe to Everyday Secrets? Not yet? Then hit that button, because this is exactly the kind of mystery that will change how you see your keyboard forever. Today, Qwerty. A design so strange, so stubborn, that 3 billion people use it every single day without asking, why? Let's start with the obvious question. Imagine you're building the very first keyboard. What's the most natural layout? A, B, C, D, E. In order. Simple. Learnable. Predictable. That's what humans want. Order. Patterns. Alphabetical feels right because we've been singing that song since preschool. So when you sit down at a QWERTY keyboard for the first time, it feels like someone shuffled the letters just to mess with you. The A is under your pinky. The J is under your strongest finger. The most common letter in English, E, is all the way over on the left, middle row, but not even centered. It's chaotic. Beginners struggle. Hunt and peck becomes a nightmare. So here's the core question that has frustrated people for over a century. Why would anyone choose a worse system on purpose? Was it a mistake? A prank? Bad engineering? Or, and this is where it gets interesting, was it intentionally designed to be inefficient? Let's go back to the 1870s. The first practical typewriter wasn't built by a tech company. It was built by a newspaper editor, printer, and inventor named Christopher Sholes. His early machines looked beautiful. Brass levers, piano-like keys, and a huge problem. See, each key was connected to a metal arm, called a type bar, that would swing up and strike the paper. When you typed fast, 2 or 3 arms would collide mid-air and jam together. The machine froze, and you had to reach in and untangle little metal fingers with your bare hands. That was not sustainable. Sholes realized the faster people typed, the more jams happened. But he couldn't stop people from getting faster. So he did something brilliant. He redesigned the keyboard to slow typists down, just enough to keep the machine alive. He studied which letter pairs were most common in English. TH, HE, AN, RE. Then he deliberately placed those letters far apart on opposite sides of the keyboard. He also put the most frequent letters, like A, E, O, in hard-to-reach spots under weak fingers. The result? QWERTY, a layout engineered not for comfort, not for speed, but for survival of the machine. It was a mechanical solution to a mechanical problem. And in 1873, Remington, the big gun manufacturer, started mass-producing Sholes's design. So QWERTY worked. Jams dropped dramatically. Typists learned it, grumbled, but adapted. But here's where the story gets really interesting. QWERTY didn't win because it was better. It won because it was first at scale. Remington flooded the market. Typing schools taught QWERTY because Remington machines were everywhere. And once someone spent hundreds of hours learning a keyboard layout, switching to a different one felt like learning to write with your other hand. That's the lock-in effect. By the time better layouts appeared, like the Dvorak simplified keyboard in the 1930s, which claimed to be faster and more efficient, it was too late. Millions of typists already had QWERTY in their fingers. Companies didn't want to retrain staff. Manufacturers didn't want to make different machines. Efficiency wasn't the priority anymore. Compatibility was. And here's the painful truth. Qwerty was a genius solution for 1873, but it became a trap for every generation after. Fast forward to today. Your laptop, your phone, your tablet, none of them have metal type bars that jam. The original problem is completely gone. So why are we still using Qwerty? Two reasons. First, the network effect. Every keyboard you've ever used is Qwerty. Every school teaches it. Every OS defaults to it. Switching one person is easy. Switching a billion people is impossible. Second, switching costs. Learning a new layout takes about 30 to 60 hours of frustrating, slow typing. Most people give up after 10 minutes. Now, there are alternatives. Dvorak, Qwerty, Workman. Some studies suggest they're faster, more ergonomic, and reduce finger strain. But better doesn't matter when everyone around you uses the old standard. That's the real lesson here. Better solutions don't always win. The one that gets adopted first and stays adopted wins. And that doesn't just apply to keyboards. Look around you. The Qwerty principle is everywhere. We still use the same layout for car pedals, gas, brake, clutch, even though modern cars could redesign them completely. We still use a 9-to-5 work schedule invented for factory shifts. We still use file folders on computers, a metaphor from physical filing cabinets. These systems aren't optimal. They're just established. And once you see that, you start asking better questions. Not what's the most logical way, but what got locked in first, and why hasn't it changed? That's the empowerment here. You don't have to accept default settings. In technology, in habits, in the way you work. You can ask, is this actually good, or did I just inherit it? Most people never ask that. But now you will. Now, to be fair, some experts push back on the Qwerty was designed to slow you down story. Recent research suggests Scholz wasn't trying to reduce speed. He was trying to redistribute typing load to reduce jams, while keeping speed reasonable. In other words, he wasn't anti-speed. He was pro-non-collision. Also, the famous US Navy study that claimed Dvorak was much faster, later criticized for bias. The truth is messier. So let's be clear. Qwerty wasn't bad design for its time. It was smart, practical, and clever. The problem isn't the layout itself. It's that we never updated it after the mechanical problem disappeared. That nuance matters. Because history isn't a story of heroes and villains. It's a story of trade-offs that outlive their usefulness. So why Qwerty and not ABC? Because ABC solved a learning problem. Qwerty solved a machine problem. And the machine problem came first. Once millions of people learned the scrambled solution, it became the default. Not because it was best, but because it was locked in. The hidden truth? Convenience isn't logic. Familiarity isn't efficiency. And the thing you use every single day might exist for a reason that disappeared before your grandparents were born. So next time your fingers stumble over Qwerty, remember, you're not bad at typing. You're just using a 150-year-old patch for a broken machine. If this made you look at your keyboard differently, hit like. Seriously, it helps more people find these hidden stories. And here's a question for the comments. If you could redesign the keyboard from scratch tomorrow, would you keep Qwerty or switch to something better? I'm genuinely curious. Also, if you haven't already, subscribe to Everyday Secrets, because there's a hidden story behind almost everything you touch. Thanks for watching, and stay curious.